She slapped a beggar in public, laughed in her face, and walked away like nothing happened. 3 years later, her beauty faded, her business collapsed, her body began to die, and no doctor could explain why. What if the woman she mocked wasn't just a beggar? This is the haunting story of Sandra, and how a single moment of pride became the doorway to suffering, regrets, and a battle for her life. Sit back and watch how the whole story unfolds. Sandra was a woman who turned heads wherever she went, with flawless skin, long black hair, and an elegant figure. She looked like someone who had lived a life of luxury, but she hadn't. She had worked hard to build herself up from nothing. She owned a small but stylish boutique in the heart of Lagos, where she sold clothes, bags, and accessories. Business was good. She lived alone in a neat 3-bedroom apartment on the mainland and drove a clean Toyota Corolla. She wasn't rich, but she was doing well and she knew it. Sandra loved to look good, even when running errands. She dressed like she was going for a fashion shoot. That Saturday afternoon, she wore a fitted purple gown that hugged her curves, with diamond earrings that sparkled in the sun. Her makeup was subtle but flawless, and her perfume trailed behind her like a signature. She was at the open market, walking confidently with a small handbag in one hand and her phone in the other. The sun was hot, and the market was buzzing with traders shouting prices and buyers haggling. Sandra didn't like the noise or the smell of the place, but she needed fresh vegetables and spices. As she bent slightly to pick up a bunch of tomatoes, she felt something. A hand. A dry, wrinkled hand gently touched her hand. She turned quickly and froze. Before her stood a wrinkled, barefoot old woman with dusty skin, torn clothes, and eyes that looked dull and tired. The woman said nothing, just held out a trembling hand as if asking for help. Sandra stared in horror. "How dare you touch me?" she snapped, her voice sharp like a whip. "Are you mad? You dirty beggar! How dare you lay your filthy, stinking hands on me?" People around turned to look, but no one said anything. The beggar stood there, silent, her head bowed. Her mouth didn't move. Her eyes just stared blankly at the ground. Sandra grew more furious. "You're not even sorry? You can't talk? You just stand there like a fool." Then, slap. The sound echoed like thunder. Sandra had raised her hand and landed it squarely on the woman's cheek. The beggar staggered slightly, but still said nothing. "You should be grateful I didn't call the police," Sandra shouted. "You are cursed. Look at you. No shame, no dignity, just roaming the street like a ghost. God forbid I ever end up like you." The beggar slowly bent down, spat on the floor, and muttered something, too low for anyone to hear. Then she turned around and walked away, disappearing into the crowd without a word. Sandra laughed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "That woman must be mad," she scoffed. "Whatever," she muttered. "Useless old thing." She finished buying her groceries and got into her car, playing loud music on her drive home. Her mind replayed the slap like a movie scene. Her anger, her boldness, her pride. She almost felt proud of how she had put that beggar in her place. That evening, she cleaned up and took a hot shower. She put on a silk robe and went into the kitchen to prepare her favorite meal: fried plantain, spicy jollof rice, and grilled chicken. Her boyfriend Kelvin was coming over, and she wanted everything to be perfect. But as she stirred the jollof rice, her thoughts returned to the market, to the old woman, to the silence. Sandra shook her head. "Nonsense," she muttered. "Just another dirty mad woman." She forced herself to smile and poured wine into 2 glasses. That night had just begun. But something was already shifting. Something she would never expect. Sandra's life went back to normal. Or so it seemed. Days turned into weeks into months. And before long, 3 years had passed. The incident at the market, the old beggar, the slap, became nothing but a shadow in her memory. She continued to live her life like nothing ever happened. Sandra ran her boutique. She posted stylish pictures on Instagram. She traveled, attended parties with her boyfriend, and dressed like the queen she believed she was. Everything was fine until it wasn't. It began slowly. A little pain in her back, a constant headache, a strange fatigue she couldn't explain. She ignored it, but the pain grew worse. Soon, Sandra couldn't sleep through the night. She felt weak all the time. Her skin looked dull. Her eyes lost their sparkle. Something inside her was dying, and no one could tell what it was. She went to the hospital, test after test, scan after scan, yet every doctor said the same thing. We can't find anything wrong with you. But Sandra knew something was very wrong. They gave her medicines, injections, drips, IV fluids, strong painkillers. She was in and out of the hospital for 5 months, but nothing changed. She only got weaker. Soon, Sandra couldn't even walk. She couldn't bathe herself. She couldn't sit up for more than a minute. Her boutique closed. Her customers gone. Her glow faded. And her boyfriend, he stayed for 2 months. At first, he tried to help, buying medicine, encouraging her to eat, but slowly, his visits became shorter. His calls stopped coming. And one day, he simply disappeared, vanished. Sandra was alone. Her family stepped in. Her mother moved in and became her caregiver, cleaning her, feeding her, changing her clothes. Her siblings helped where they could, but the hospital bills, they were too much. Sandra had no choice. She sold her boutique, her pride, her only source of income, and still no cure. She grew thinner and thinner. Her bones pressed against her skin. Her hair thinned out. She looked like a shadow of herself, a walking ghost. One day, her mother held her gently and said, "Let's try prayers, since the hospitals are not working anymore." They went from one church to another, from mountaintops to crusades. They saw pastors, prophets, and self-proclaimed miracle workers. Hands were laid on her. Oil was poured. Tongues were spoken. Nothing worked. One of her sisters, desperate and hopeful, saved some money and took her back to the hospital. But this time, something chilling happened. After hours of observation, the doctor sat them down and said, "Medically, this girl is fine. There is nothing we can do for her. I'm afraid what's happening to her is spiritual." The room went quiet. Her mother froze. Sandra just stared at the ceiling, her eyes empty, lips trembling. They didn't know what to do anymore. They had prayed, they had fasted, they had cried, but death still whispered. Then one day, there was a knock on the door. It was Amanda, Sandra's old friend. Amanda had moved to another city 2 years ago and hadn't seen Sandra in a long time. But after not hearing from her for so long, she decided to visit. When she stepped into the room and saw Sandra, her bag dropped to the floor. Her mouth opened in shock. "Sandra, oh my God, what happened to you?" She rushed to her side. Sandra was lying on bed, thin, frail, her skin pale, eyes sunken. The girl she once knew, vibrant, stylish, full of life, was gone. "I went to your boutique and they said it doesn't belong to you anymore. What is going on?" Sandra's lips quivered. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Amanda, life happened," she whispered. "I don't know what's wrong with me. I just felt sick. For months, I have spent everything, even sold my boutique. We've been to hospitals, churches, prayer houses, but no one has answers. I feel pain all over. I can't even bathe myself. I can't eat. Amanda, look at me now. I'm tired." She broke into tears. Amanda knelt beside her, holding her hands tightly. Hey, it's okay. Don't cry. I'm here now. You're not alone anymore. We're going to figure this out, I promise. We will fight this. And you, my dear, you will rise again. But in Amanda's eyes was fear. Because what she saw wasn't just sickness. It felt like a curse. And deep inside her, Amanda knew something unnatural was happening. Something from the past was returning to collect its price. Amanda became Sandra's lifeline. She visited every other day, sometimes with foodstuffs, sometimes with words of hope. She brought medicine, fruits, and anything she could afford. But things were not getting better. One afternoon, Sandra's mother sat outside the one-bedroom apartment they now called home. Her face was thin with worry. Her clothes faded from overuse. The rent for Sandra's former 3-bedroom flat had expired. The landlord gave them a final warning. They had to leave immediately. Sandra cried all night. Her mother prayed without ceasing. But just before all hope was lost, Amanda showed up. I've paid for a small one-room apartment, she said gently. It's not much, but you can manage it for now until things get better. Sandra's mother fell to her knees and hugged Amanda's legs. You are an angel. You are truly sent by God. May heaven reward you, my daughter. Amanda smiled warmly. Don't thank me, Ma. Sandra once helped me some time ago. I'm only returning the favor. And besides, she turned to Sandra and gave her hand a squeeze. What are friends for? Sandra looked at her with tired eyes. Thank you, Amanda. May God continue to bless you. But 2 weeks passed, and still Sandra's condition didn't change. She was still as thin as bone, still in pain, still unable to bathe herself or eat well. The silence in her body was now filled with groans. Then one evening, Amanda arrived looking excited. Sandra, she said, rushing to her bedside. I have good news. Sandra turned slowly, her eyes dull, but there was a small spark of curiosity. What is it? She asked, almost whispering. There is a man of God I know, Amanda said. A real one, not like those fake ones who only collect people's money and perform drama. This one is different. He's a true man of God. Sandra frowned, her weak body slumping again. Amanda, we have been to churches, so many. They took everything from us. They prayed and poured oil and shouted, but nothing changed. I'm tired. I don't want to waste what little strength I have left. Amanda held her shoulders. I understand, truly. But listen, if this one asks for money, we'll walk away together. I just want us to try. Please, Sandra, just one last time. Sandra signed, then nodded. Okay, one last time. 2 days later, Sandra and Amanda arrived at the church. Amanda supported her carefully as they walked through the gates. The building was quiet, not noisy or crowded. It didn't look like the flashy churches Sandra had visited before. They were led straight to the pastor's office. A tall, calm man in a white shirt and simple trousers sat behind a wooden desk. His Bible was open before him, a faint scent of frankincense in the air. Good morning, Pastor, Amanda greeted. The man looked at them with sharp, discerning eyes. Good morning, he said softly. Then he turned to Sandra. You, he said, pointing gently. You are not just sick. What is happening to you is not ordinary. Let us pray. He closed his eyes and began to whisper quietly. His lips moved. His hands rested on his Bible. What is your name? He asked without looking up. Sandra, sir, she replied. He paused. Sandra. Someone has cast a powerful spell on you. A powerful witch has cast a spell on you. Sandra and Amanda exchanged glances. The pastor opened his eyes and looked straight at her. 3 years ago, he said, you did something. Do you remember what happened at the market? Sandra's eyes widened slowly. No, I don't think so, she stammered. The pastor leaned in. You slapped a beggar. You insulted and laughed at her. You remember now? Sandra blinked. And it all came rushing back. The slap, the insults, the mocking laughter. Her mouth went dry. "Yes, I remember," she whispered. "I was angry. Someone had upset me before I got to the market. And when that beggar touched me, I just snapped. I didn't mean to." The pastor raised a hand. "That woman, she wasn't just a beggar." Sandra froze. She was sent on a spiritual mission that day, an important assignment. And you, in your anger, interrupted her. He stood up slowly. "You weren't the target. You were the scapegoat, the sacrifice. She spat on the ground and cursed you that day. And since then, your life has been under a spiritual attack." Sandra's hands began to tremble. Amanda covered her mouth in shock. "She cursed me?" Sandra asked, barely able to speak. "Just because I slapped her?" The pastor looked grave. "She was no ordinary woman. The curse she placed on you is not simple, and breaking it will not be easy." Sandra burst into tears. "This is my fault," she sobbed. "I cursed this. I brought this on myself." Amanda held her tightly. "Don't say that. You didn't know. You didn't know, Sandra." The pastor closed his Bible gently. "You must prepare yourself," he said solemnly. "This is not going to be an ordinary battle. But if you are ready to fight, truly fight, you can come out of this alive." Sandra looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "I'll do anything, sir," she said. "Anything. Just please help me live again." Sandra sat in silence across from the pastor, her face pale and damp with tears. Amanda rubbed her back gently, still shaken by the pastor's revelation. The room was quiet, heavy with truth. The pastor leaned forward, his Bible still open on the desk. "Sandra," he said calmly, "I need you to understand something. Life is spiritual. Most of what happens in the physical begins in the spirit. We walk among angels, demons, wounded souls, and powerful forces, and we don't even know it." Sandra sniffled, eyes lowered. The pastor continued, "The market is not an ordinary place. There are living people, dead people, even evil people there, all roaming, trading, disguising. That beggar you slapped, she wasn't what she looked like. So, we must be very careful with our words, our reactions, our pride. You never know who is who." He looked directly at Sandra. Never insult someone simply because they look small, because some people are more powerful than they appear. Sandra broke into quiet sobs. "I wish I could go back," she whispered. "I wish I could undo that day. I was angry. I was proud. I didn't know. I just didn't know." The pastor stood and placed his hand gently on her head. "It's too late to change the past," he said softly, "but not too late to fight for your future." Sandra nodded. Her heart was heavy with regrets, but somewhere deep inside, a small flame of hope flickered. She rose slowly, and Amanda helped her out of the office. And so they left, not just with answers, but with a warning they would never forget. That night, after visiting the pastor, Sandra couldn't sleep. Her body ached, but it wasn't just from the sickness. Her mind was spinning. That old beggar. She hadn't thought about her in years. She never imagined something so small, a slap, an insult, could open a door so dark. At midnight, her eyes fluttered open, and that's when she saw it. A shadow standing at the foot of her bed. The room was cold, too cold. Her mother was fast asleep beside her on the bed, unaware. Sandra couldn't move. The shadow moved closer. It had no face, just a long, crooked figure wearing torn wrappers and bare feet. Then it spoke. "You laughed at me when all I needed was mercy." The voice was hollow, echoing. It filled the room like smoke. "You slapped and insulted me so terribly. You mocked what you didn't understand." Sandra's lips parted. I'm sorry," she whispered, but her voice didn't come out. The shadow lifted a hand. and a heavy wind blew through the closed room, scattering papers, lifting curtains. Then suddenly, lights, bright, blinding lights filled the room. Sandra gasped. The shadow vanished, and standing by the door was the pastor, glowing with a soft white light, his Bible open in his hand, in what could only have been a vision. "You must fight," he said, "or you will fade." The next morning, Amanda returned and found Sandra drenched in sweat, barely breathing. "We begin today," Amanda said firmly. "We are going back to the church." The deliverance was unlike anything Sandra had ever experienced. It wasn't loud. There were no drums, no shouting, just a single candle, the Bible, and silence. The pastor prayed in whispers. Amanda stood behind Sandra, weeping softly. And then the convulsions began. Sandra's body jerked violently. She screamed, a scream that didn't sound human. Her eyes rolled back. Her hands clawed at the floor. The room turned cold again. The pastor didn't flinch. Every spirit of affliction, every curse spoken from a wounded soul, every evil transfer, I send you back in Jesus' name. Sandra screamed again, this time with a deep guttural voice. Her head snapped back and tears flowed freely. Then silence. She collapsed, unconscious. 7 hours later, she opened her eyes. For the first time in 3 years, her body didn't feel like it was dying. Amanda ran to her side. Sandra, can you hear me? Sandra looked around. Where am I? You are free, Amanda whispered, hugging her. You are finally free. 3 months later, Sandra had gained weight. Her cheeks were full again. Her skin glowed. She could walk, eat, even laugh. She moved into a cleaner room with her mother. Amanda helped her reopen a small version of her boutique. 1 shelf, 1 mannequin, 1 corner stall, but it was hers. One afternoon, Sandra sat by the window, braiding her hair. When Amanda walked in with a basket of furs, Sandra smiled. Amanda, she said gently, you saved my life. Amanda shook her head. No, God saved your life. I was just a friend who wouldn't give up. Sandra looked out the window at the sunset. I think about her sometimes, she said. The beggar. Amanda sat beside her. What would you say to her if you could see her again? Sandra's eyes filled with quiet tears. I'd kneel and say I'm sorry, not just with words, with my whole heart. She paused. Because sometimes the person we hurt is the one sent to test our soul. That was the day Sandra finally learned that pride is expensive, that cruelty carries a price, and that mercy, when ignored, can become a curse. But thank God for grace, because some people are lucky enough to get a second chance. Moral lessons. Never look down on anybody, especially the vulnerable. Sandra insulted, mocked, and slapped a beggar, not because the woman harmed her, but because she was poor and touched her. That act of prideful cruelty turned into a curse that ruined her life for years. Always treat people, no matter how lowly or poor, with kindness and respect, because you don't know who they really are. Anger can cost you more than you imagine. Sandra wasn't even angry at the beggar at first. She was already upset and took it out on the wrong person. That moment of emotional mismanagement opened the door to destruction. Lesson: never make decisions or actions when angry. One wrong move in anger can change your whole life. Redemption is possible, but it takes humility and help. Despite all she lost, Sandra found healing, not through pride, but through help, prayer, and the humility to accept correction. No matter how far gone a person may be, grace is real, but it often requires deep humility and the willingness to change. Be kind, be humble, because you don't know who is who. Life is spiritual, and one wrong word can open a door you may never be strong enough to close. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it touched your heart or opened your eyes, don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another life-changing story like this. Now let me ask you, have you ever spoken harshly to someone, not knowing they could be the reason your life is still standing today? Think about it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay humble, stay kind, and remember, life is deeper than what we see. God bless you. Bye.